Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to our third session of PrEP. And my name's India Henry. Today's session is about debunking myths around PrEP, and today we are joined by Judy. Judy, would you like to introduce yourself and give a bit of an overview about your project?
Thank you, India. Yes, my name is Judy Otti. I work with Africa Advocacy Foundation, and I'm today under the capacity of a project we did called PrEP and Prejudice, purely trying to educate the ethnic communities, mainly Black communities, about PrEP. Apart from that, African Advocacy Foundation also does a lot of work around prevention, other prevention aspects of HIV, supporting people living with HIV, FGM awareness and support, and a lot of other mental health projects.
Thank you, Judy. So this is our third and final session around PrEP, and this we're going to do a bit of a recap just around what we've discussed in our previous session. So just a quick run through is that PrEP has been trialled since 1995. The first trial was an animal study. The PROUD study, launched in 2015, was across 13 sexual health clinics with 545 people involved in the study. PrEP is effective when the correct dosing method is used, and barriers to PrEP include limited risk perception around HIV and limited awareness. And when we talk about limited awareness, that is including service users, but also some services as well are aware of PrEP or where to access PrEP. So PrEP is available across many countries and continents. PrEP is only available for free from sexual health clinic. However, you do have to speak to your healthcare provider about this, and PrEP can be purchased from I Want PrEP Now, and I Want PrEP Now is a really safe website to buy PrEP from, so we would highly recommend. So just to delve into today's session, we will be going over a few myths, and myself and Judy will be discussing, we're kind of breaking down these myths with facts. So before we go into that, we're going to go for a quick video, which Judy was part of creating. And this is about PrEP in casual conversation, just to show how easy it is to discuss PrEP.
I don't know if you remember me. I met you at Sophia's bar.
At Sophia's bar. And I gave you my number.
Yes, you did. But for a good reason. I would have called you earlier, but I sort of lost my phone.
You lost your phone. So how did you get my number?
Well, I tattooed it on my wrist, innit? No, I'm joking. iCloud, innit? Wait, are you alone?
Of course. What's up?
Anyways, I wanted to invite you out for a drink. Tonight?
Tonight? Oh, okay. Can you send me a picture on WhatsApp? Just so I can re-jog my memory a bit. Is it okay if I WhatsApp back to confirm? Is that okay?
Picture? Okay. That's fine. I'll do that. Yeah, okay. Fine. Speak soon.
Ready! I've been waiting all week for him to call.
So that was an act?
A girl's gotta play. Hard to get sometimes.
Yeah, you deserve a BAFTA after that performance.
BAFTA? She deserves an Oscar, mate.
So, tell us, is he hot?
Sizzling. A bit like Usher, except cuter. Okay. He's half African, Caribbean.
Oh, just like me.
Oh, it's been a long time since I've been on a date. I can't wait.
This here is a lost cause. You might as well skip the drink and go straight to the bedroom. Are you gonna have sex with him on the first date?
Of course I am.
Sandra, Cover your ears, please.
Come on, Mum. You know that I know more than you.
And you're proud to say it too. Look at your face, just like a father. What I'm saying is, just be careful. There's a lot of diseases out there. HIV is still serious.
Don't worry about HIV. I can't catch it.
Huh? Are you Jesus?
Not quite, but I'm on PrEP.
PrEP? What's that?
Pre-exposure prophylaxis. It's a one-a-day pill, a bit like the contraceptive pill that people take if they don't have HIV to stay HIV-free. So you take it before sex, so whoever you're having sex with, if they have HIV, you don't get it.
Are you kidding me? And it works? Are you listening?
So now I shouldn't cover my ears. Are you sure it's effective? Like it actually works? Well, it offers almost 100% protection against HIV during both vaginal and anal sex.
Anal? You mean Sandra?
Yeah. I'm covering my ears.
And it's safe.
Yeah, well, like any other drug, it has side effects, but I haven't had any. I know they did this big study in the UK, the IMPACT trial, and it showed it was very safe. And not everyone will or does experience side effects. It's very individual. I guess it's about having a choice, really, in terms of what prevention method you want to use. I know for me, PrEP would give me an extra option, where I feel empowered because I'd be in control of how I look after my sexual health. Actually, as my mother insists, I'm still a virgin at 21 years old. You can close your mouth now, Mum.
So, we ditching condoms now, yeah? I never liked them anyways.
Not quite. PrEP doesn't prevent against other STIs. To be honest, I see PrEP and condoms as adding to my prevention armory. So sometimes I use condoms, depending on who I sleep with. So where did you get your PrEP from then? From the sexual health clinic. But you can also buy it online too. They're doing a lot of work at the moment to try to find other ways besides sexual health clinics to access it. I love PrEP. Give it a try. For more information, you can go to www.womanandprep.org.uk. There's a lot more information there.
So that video is absolutely fantastic, and I just love how the conversation gradually moves to PrEP, and it's very real, isn't it? I know that when I've been to the hairdressers, or even at my mum's house with all my sisters, you do get talking about these taboo topics, and it's just really refreshing hearing just ordinary people talk about PrEP, because as people who work in sexual health, we can talk about PrEP until we're blue in the face, but just hearing ordinary people passing that information to friends and family is really refreshing. And I think it's a really good start to today's session as well.
I also think that is where we embrace information best, in those channels. I think the traditional channels of sexual health clinic, or even though we are in we are charities that are promoting this, sometimes, like you said, we might talk until we're blue in the face, but actually what is most effective is your trusted friend, sister, family member, and that's when information is absorbed best. So I'm hoping that this just makes the PrEP conversation a lot easier.
Definitely, and there's plenty more videos where that came from as well, so please do check them out, and you can see them through African Advocacy website, or through PrEP and Prejudice, either or, and both websites interlink as well. There's some amazing pictures. So just following on from the conversation that the women were having in the hair salon, let's unpack this one. So PrEP is making people forget about safe sex. How would you respond to this, Judy?
I think PrEP has had a bad report as to being blamed that it is going to make people more promiscuous, it's going to make people forget about other STIs. But it's very important, just like the lady said in the video, it's one of the other armors of her protection from HIV. So PrEP is one of the armors. It's not, we're not asking you to ditch the condoms, because PrEP does not protect you from other STIs. PrEP does not protect you from getting pregnant. It only protects you from contracting HIV. So it's important that you analyze the risk that is in front of you and make a decision. If this is a person you would have intercourse with without protection, but want the added protection not to contract HIV. And this could be for several reasons. You're already in this relationship. It's maybe a long-term relationship. Maybe it's one you cannot introduce a condom in all of a sudden, but you want to protect yourself from HIV, which is a real threat to your relationship. There is something to help you. There's something to empower you. But we also recommend, please continue to use a condom which will protect you from STIs.
Of course, and you know, I think most importantly, PrEP is a choice, and it's about people being informed about the choices that they can make. And as Judy mentioned, this is just one of our many prevention piece of armour. And so saying PrEP is making people forget about safe sex is kind of the same narrative that was used when people thought about contraception. Remember, like, there was a lot of discussion about when long-active reversible contraception became more readily available, and the same conversations were being had then. But I think one thing to remember is that it's like equipping all people with the correct knowledge about how to protect themselves from STIs and unplanned pregnancies. And we always say prevention is better than cure. So having PrEP available and with people having good sound knowledge of PrEP is a really good step in the right direction. And of course, not everyone will be comfortable taking PrEP, which is completely fine. It's about really reinforcing that individual choice and preference.
And back to, you know, some of the slides that we covered last session around the PROUD study. Some of the aspects that were being explored in that was what effect it would have on STIs, on condom use. And actually that came back that there was no difference there was no drop in use of condoms. There was no increase in STIs. So it's about educating people to learn to manage their behaviors, their sexual behaviors better.
I agree. Does taking PrEP limit your HIV treatment options if you become HIV positive?
The answer to this is no. And the reason why is that there are various combinations of treatment for HIV. There's not just one. And in PrEP, there's only one element of the PrEP medication that is in the HIV medication. So it's not the whole combination of medication in the HIV treatment that you're taking for PrEP, which can also be interpreted in a different way. And I will also use this opportunity to highlight, you cannot take HIV medication and use it as PrEP. So you cannot take somebody else's HIV medication and take it and think that you are using it as PrEP to protect yourself. But the two don't work in the same way. So no, it doesn't. It's also reassuring to know that PrEP has been used, like we said in the last session previously, in newborn babies to provide that added protection so they do not contract HIV from their mom at birth. And it has been seen to be safe. And even if you do stop the treatment, there has not been any instance of someone then contracting HIV as a result of being on PrEP. What has happened where there's been a conversion is where there's been problems with adherence. If you do not take PrEP as prescribed, you're not having that required protective levels of PrEP in your body to then protect you from acquiring HIV. And that is very, very important. So even in the studies that were done where there was conversion from an HIV negative to an HIV positive diagnosis, it was because of poor adherence.
Yeah, and I feel like I've not really got anything to add to that, because I feel like you summarised it really, really nicely actually, and you've really like debunked this myth, because I think a lot of people hear that PrEP and HIV treatments are very similar and people automatically assume that means the same, when actually you've just discussed there how it's not at all. And you know, we can't share treatments with someone who's HIV positive, but actually it's about adherence as well, which is part of that prevention. So if you do not adhere to your PrEP regime, then it's likely that you may become HIV positive. But if you continue to take PrEP, it's not going to have any impacts on your HIV treatments if you're someone who's HIV positive. So our third question or myth is, we don't know how effective PrEP is.
Yes, we do. There's countless studies that have been done for us or for the medical world to come to a point where they are saying PrEP is effective. We went in the last session and discussed the different trials that had been done as early as 1996 it was, right until 2015, I believe. There have been countless studies. The impact trial that was running in England was actually not finding about the effectiveness of PrEP, because that had already been established that it's effective. It was finding the demand, what will be the demand and consumption of PrEP. That's why it was called a trial. It was trying to answer that question around the demand and appetite for PrEP in different communities, so that it can then be put onto the NHS and they can understand who needs it and in what quantities and how it would be distributed and that kind of stuff. So it's not that PrEP is not effective. PrEP is 99% effective if taken correctly. And India has put some of this, which is a recap from what we discussed in terms of the type of sexual behavior you have, the type of sex you're having will determine what regime of PrEP you will be taking. For men who have sex with men, or if you're having anal sex and you're a man, you can take PrEP, a double dose, what they call a double dose, in the first 24 hours, and then continue taking a pill of PrEP every 24 hours for up till at least 48 hours after your last encounter with PrEP. For women, because the drug works differently in order of how it then provides the protective levels in our vaginal tissue, it's recommended that you take PrEP for up to 7 days before you have achieved the protective levels in your vaginal tissue. So you have to take it 7 days prior, continue taking, but this is 1 pill a day, and then continue taking PrEP every day until, and also 7 days after your last sexual encounter. If you, and don't worry if this is a mouthful, because when you go to the clinic and have these conversations, they will explain to you how it's taken and what works for you best. The other thing I will also say is, once you have been prescribed PrEP, or you've made a decision, you've gone to the clinic, you've been prescribed PrEP, in order for you to have the best effect of its effectiveness on you, it's good to really think through how you're going to be taking it. And little tips can be, choose a time that you will not forget within your routine. Is it when you're having breakfast? Is it when you're going to bed? Is it, choose a time that is more within your own routine so that it's easy for you to remember. Maybe have it in a box that you're able to tick off. This is a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or have a calendar where you're able to tick off that I've taken it, because maybe it can become very repetitive and you're not sure whether you took it or you didn't take it. And if you do forget to take it, just take it at the nearest opportunity when you remember to take it. So it's better than missing a dose. If you had a regime of taking it at when you're having your breakfast at 8 o'clock and you forgot, if you remember at 12 or at 1 o'clock, take it. That's better than a missed dose. and then continue taking it at 8 o'clock like you were doing. Use of a pill box can be very, very helpful because it's labeled. You can set an alarm on your phone, which can remind you, or you can either that you can use, which can remind you in terms of adherence. You always have to remember you're increasing your protective levels within your body. And if those protective levels drop, you're putting yourself at risk.
That's fantastic, actually. I think just to, I really like your suggestions about ways to take PrEP and having it in a pill box and writing it down and things like that, or even setting alarms. I am someone who, I love an alarm when it's, you know, time for me to do school pickup. I've got an alarm that goes off 10 minutes beforehand. So just, I think with PrEP, it's like Judy said, it's really about finding a suitable way that suits your lifestyle. So it's not about making it uncomfortable, but it's about making it very organic to you. And if a pill box works for you, then that's absolutely great. But this is something your healthcare professional will discuss, and to make sure that you actually are happy and comfortable with the PrEP regime. But also, if you're having both anal and vaginal sex, then your healthcare professional will discuss this. I think one thing I would like to promote is just really being comfortable and honest with your healthcare professional. So don't feel as if they're judging you, or they're gonna just kind of sit there and make rude remarks, because that is not what they do at all. They are very professional, and there's nothing you can say that's never heard before. And if you do say something new to them, it's just a new learning experience. And if you work with them around the language you use, or just kind of the type of sex you engage in, then they will educate themselves to be more equipped to you. So healthcare professionals, I really can't praise them enough, especially workers in sexual health clinics, because they're just so adaptable, and they are very used to hearing things. So please don't feel embarrassed, because you can't embarrass someone who works in this industry, and there's nothing to be embarrassed at all, because you're doing the best thing for your health. So if anything, you should be really proud of yourself for accessing help and treatment. So taking PrEP has a lot of risks to your health, and I've actually heard this a lot when I was out increasing awareness around the impact trial, and as having to discuss with people how it's not a trial, so to speak. It's more about just making sure there's a demand within these areas. But then one of the questions I would come across several times a day is, but you don't know what you're putting in your body, you don't know what they're doing to you. And later down the line, it'll probably come out how that, PrEP has caused a lot of damage. Whereas in our previous workshops, we have discussed that PrEP actually, so when you go on PrEP and when you go through this regime, you actually will have regular testing. And like all medication, there are some small risk factors, but things like a liver function test and other things like that will be performed. And quite often you'll probably even have like an STI screening as well, with your consent, just to make sure that actually if there are any, if you have any STIs prior to going into PrEP, then that actually you seek treatment before going into PrEP. And whilst being part of this, you will also have like liver function tests and other tests surrounding your lifestyle and stuff like that, to make sure that you are in kind of you fit and healthy, so to speak. And when I say fit and healthy, I mean fit and healthy for you. And so it's really important that actually you go and you have these regular checkups. Don't just get your PrEP and think that's it. Just continue and have that relationship and that rapport with your healthcare professional.
And also it's reassuring to know that if you have these regular tests and they pick up maybe that one of the medications in PrEP, Tenavia, is affecting your kidneys, they will be able to stop you taking PrEP. And as soon as they do that, it's reversible. So the damage that has been done is reversible, and you would get mild symptoms that once you stop PrEP are reversed, and you'll be fine. So there is a solution to it. It's not irreversible damage, is I think what I'm trying to say. It's important that you have those regular checks, and as soon as it's picked up, you are taken off. There are other combinations of PrEP that are being worked on, which would not include that medication. So you probably be a candidate for something like that. But just to know that it is safe, it has been safe with contraceptives, for example, contraceptive medication, so you can have PrEP and your other contraceptive medications. It's safe when you're breastfeeding. You shouldn't have to worry about that. You can have it and breastfeed without worrying about any effects to your child. And it's also been approved. This is something that we have to really emphasize. It's been approved, so therefore it's been approved because it's well tolerated in the body, and because it's effective, and because it works, and it's in other countries. So if you take heart in that reassurance, then you know that PrEP is really not a risk to your health. We had a discussion about this in the last session. It's a risk analysis, if you like. And the way I would say risk assessment by yourself. What is the benefit of having PrEP, and what's the risk of not having PrEP?
Mm-hmm.
You weigh those and make a decision, because sometimes the benefit of taking PrEP outweighs the risk of having the kidney failure, for example, because the kidney, if you react and have a kidney failure, you will be treated for that. But if you have in turn then contract HIV, you have to take a lot more other medications for the rest of your life, with a lot more other complications. And sometimes this is what we are trying to weigh.
Of course. And that kind of comes to the end of our questions around PrEP and some of the myths we've come across. But please do feel free to keep learning and kind of discovering and understanding PrEP, because again, for a lot of people, this is their first time hearing about PrEP or kind of being made aware. And I feel, in my opinion, that one thing our workshops have done is really explore PrEP in different ways, and I guess in a way that the questions that when I used to go out into the community, people would ask me. So kind of we've gone through, I would say, the cycle of PrEP quite well. But I think for anyone else who wants further information, then it's really, really important that you kind of go to these websites here below. So of course we've got the project Judy was working on, which is PrEP and Prejudice. And one thing I'd like to say about this is that the you can see here anyway, the images that are used are absolutely beautiful and they're vibrant and they have real people, which I think that's what really stands out to me. And the information and resources are for individuals and for like clinicians and other community workers. So please do go and see those resources online. And then we've also got PrEPster. And PrEPster, I want to call it a franchise, but it's not. So again, PrEPster is another organisation who have kind of been at the forefront of getting PrEP together, but also producing leaflets and workshops. They recently did a Facebook Live series, and that was absolutely amazing. So you can find PrEPster online on Instagram and on Facebook as well. And I Want PrEP Now is a trusted website to buy PrEP from. I believe right now it's probably the only website we would recommend for people to go and buy PrEP from. But PrEP is now also available in sexual health clinics, and if you are in Greater Manchester, please do head to the Northern Sexual Health Clinic, and they've got a whole page dedicated about PrEP and PEP as well. So just to recap, PEP is post-exposure prophylaxis. So this is if you believe you have been exposed to HIV, then you have up to 72 hours to go and access this from a A&E service, and you have to tell them that you're here to access PEP. And you might have to give the person a little bit of information about about what PEP is, because not all service staff might be aware of PEP or might not be familiar with the term, but just let them know it's kind of time critical and you can access it there. But I Want PrEP Now is really, really good to buy PrEP from, and I think the pricing changes, but it's around from 30 upwards. But if you can access it from a sexual health clinic, then please do that, because that is free. Do you have any final points, Judy?
I have two final points. One is the future of PrEP is quite exciting.
Mm-hmm.
There are other developments being made in terms of PrEP being administered as a long-acting patch, but you would have to use maybe over a period of 28 days. There is a ring also being developed that women can insert and use. So it's interesting. There's also PrEP as an injectable, where again it can be used for up to 3 months or something like that. So let's watch this space. I think there are more avenues in terms of how PrEP would be, in what form PrEP would be on the market, but also in terms of access. I know it's limiting at the moment, where it's mainly two options: sexual health clinic or buying it online. The sexual health clinic, like India mentioned, is free of charge, and we have to reiterate that. But if you feel, for maybe reasons of confidentiality or any other barriers, you feel going to a sexual health clinic is not for you, you can go and buy PrEP online, but we recommend, really highly recommend, you're using a trusted website, because if you're buying PrEP from an untrusted supplier, you don't know what components are in the medication you're buying, and they could be really harmful to you. The other thing is, in the future, we are seeing possibly a rollout of PrEP in other scenarios outside a sexual health clinic or buying it online. And it would be interesting to see if we can go into maybe pharmacies, into a vending machine at different locations, into your GP surgery. So let's continue watching this space and see how PrEP develops. The second thing I wanted to say as we wind up is maybe somehow summing up all the sessions we've done in one scenario, where we are starting by recommending you have an HIV test and know your status. It's really important that you have an HIV test regularly. I think it's recommended that you have it at least once a year if you're with a regular partner, or whenever you change partners. It's a bit like having an MOT for your car. You have it once a year just to make sure everything's working fine. So I recommend you have not just an HIV test, but have a whole MOT, sexual health tests for different other illnesses, and just be sure you know what you have and you're dealing with what you have in the best way you can. The earlier you know what you're dealing with, the better chances you have of being healthy. So if we go back to that scenario where you're having your HIV test, if you have the HIV test and it comes out negative, you would, and together with the consultant, they would be able to assess your risk. Are you at risk? What are your sexual behaviors? And look and unpick that for you and with you, and make you aware of PrEP, or you now have this knowledge from this workshops that we've had. Look at the PrEP proposition, and is it something that you need? Is it something that would protect you? Is it something that would work for you? And if it is, then access PrEP, or they would recommend that you access PrEP, or you go onto a sexual health clinic or to an online page and access PrEP. If you decide to go to an online page to access PrEP, we recommend you still go to the clinic to have the initial tests done. 1, to make sure you're not HIV positive. 2, to make sure your kidney function and all the other, you don't have any other STIs and anything else, so that once you start PrEP, you're starting PrEP at a level field that is not going to bring new complications. And then if you then see how long you want PrEP for, are you taking it every day? Are you taking it on demand? Again, those are things that would be discussed with you and at the sexual health clinic. Maybe not online, but I would still recommend, even if you are buying PrEP online, you can still go to the sexual health clinic and explain you're buying PrEP online, but you need the tests, and they will do these tests for you, and they are free of charge. So the other spectrum of this is if you then had this HIV test and found out you were positive. If they find out you're positive, they'll link you into care. BHA supports people. They would be able to support you. They would be able to get you onto medication. And again, it's very key that now it's recommended to start medication early so that you have less other comorbidities that you're dealing with along the line. And any other support that you need would be provided for. And as it's also very important to make sure that your viral load is suppressed so that it's not a risk to you. And by that, I mean, once you're on treatment, it reduces the amount of HIV virus in your body to a point, but it's not a risk to you as an individual, but it's also not a risk to other people, sexual partners, or even family members, because I have to acknowledge that not everybody knows this. But once you're able to control that virus to that point, it then means that even if you then had a sexual relationship with somebody, if you've controlled the HIV in you, you don't have enough HIV to pass on to that person. So it means that you can't spread HIV from yourself to another person. And that's what we are calling U equals U, meaning your undetectable levels of HIV means it's untransmittable to somebody else. And I think this is another key development in the world we're living in, where it means that someone who's HIV positive, it doesn't stop you from having relationships with other people because you're not going to pass that HIV on to other people. So please educate yourselves, read more about this, because there is an option for each scenario you will be in order to manage your condition really well and live a fulfilling life.
I completely agree. And if someone wanted to find out more information, would that be released on your website at African Advocacy or PrEP and Prejudice? Like, how could I find out that information?
Well, there is information on PrEP and Prejudice. There's information on the African Advocacy website. There's information on NAM AIDS map.
Yeah.
There's information on National AIDS Trust. There's information on PrEP Star website, and there's information on women, PrEP for women as well. There's very good information there as well, especially if you want tailored information for women and other groups, because PrEP for Women has done videos as well for other groups who may not be cis women. So yes.
Of course, and as Judy was saying, so please do test regularly for HIV, and if you are someone who's HIV positive or you have a family member who is, then please recommend that they do seek support. So for ourselves, we have BHA's Leeds Skyline, who are prevention and a support service, and then here in the Northwest we have George House Trust, who support all people living with HIV. And I think we don't talk about how good it is to have support networks, because often you can just have peers and you've got an environment where you can talk about different things that some people may not understand. And if you are someone who is wanting to know more about your sexual health, and do access sexual health clinics, and do just have, you know, there's so many good accounts online now that are actually sharing good information about sexual health. And I think PrEPster have an amazing online presence, and they also have a lot of scenarios, like for example, I remember they've produced like a bit of a comic strip about sex during lockdown and things like that. So just please do go seek out these different support networks that Judy has mentioned, and just find out information for yourself and investigate this for you. And if you're comfortable to, then do pass it on, but please do not just listen to hearsay and just take it as absolute, as the absolute word, because actually once you do your own research, you can then go off and expand your own knowledge, and hopefully other people's as well. And you can also order free HIV tests from ourselves at BHA. So that's the bha.org.uk. You can order a self-sampling HIV kit through us. So
my final urge to everyone is a call to action. This is going to be a missed opportunity if you then contract HIV when PrEP is available and it's free of charge. I think it's very sad with all the studies and research and resources that have gone into providing something that can prevent a new diagnosis. We really have no excuse. Let's try and publicize this. If this is not for you, just make sure your friend knows about it, and you will stop a new diagnosis, someone else being diagnosed with HIV.
completely agree. And yeah, I think that call for action is amazing, and I think it's, you know, let's hopefully let's end HIV within a generation, and you know, let's put our health first. So once again, my name is India Henry. I work for BHA for Equality as part of the PAST partnership, and that is a partnership between BHA for Equality, George House Trust and LGBT Foundation. You can find us below using the information at gmpast.org.uk, or if you would like information directly from any one of these websites, and please just go to BHA for Equality, George House Trust or LGBT Foundation. And we have tailored support services for different individual groups. And thank you so much, Judy. This is kind of the end to our trilogy, but I think it's been absolutely amazing, and I'm sure there will be some crossover work in the future as well.
Thank you, Indian. It's been a pleasure having these workshops with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.